Welcome to the Wellness on Purpose podcast, your go-to space for honest conversations, modern health insights, and realistic wellness strategies designed to move you forward on your journey to intentional well-being, not just for today, but for future generations. I'm your host, Marissa Laughlin, and I'm so excited to welcome you into a brand new season of the podcast. Through my work in the wellness industry and alongside the incredible community at Joanne's Place Health Foods, proudly serving Peterborough and Lindsay, Ontario, I've seen firsthand that true wellness isn't about chasing perfection or the latest quick fix. It's about education, empowerment, and making informed choices that support your life in a sustainable way. This season, each episode, we will dive into meaningful conversations with industry experts, practitioners, and innovative brand leaders shaping the ever-evolving landscapes of the health and wellness industry. Together, we explore emerging trends, challenge outdated ideas, and uncover practical, science-informed tools you can actually apply to your everyday life. Expect thoughtful dialogue, fresh perspectives, and approachable guidance on everything from gut health and hormones to inflammation, mental resilience, osteoporosis, longevity, liver care, and habits that truly help us feel well, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Whether you're just beginning your wellness journey or looking into deepening it with intention, you are in the right place. This is the Wellness on Purpose podcast. Let's grow, learn, and live well on purpose together now and for future generations. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Wellness on Purpose podcast, where we explore the latest innovations in natural health and wellness. On today's episode, I'm excited to be joined by Irene Pauline from Alchemy, a brand known for doing things very different in the supplement space. Alchemy formulates fermented whole food supplements that are free from synthetic vitamins, isolates, and lab-created compounds. Instead, they rely on traditional fermentation and food synergy to create formulas the body actually recognizes and uses. Today, we are going to be discussing the health of your lungs and their newest product launch, which is called Lung Health. We're going to explore why supporting the lungs can make a profound difference in how we feel, function, and age. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Irene onto the podcast. Hello, Irene. Welcome back to the Wellness on Purpose podcast. How are you doing today?
Thank you. Thank you for having me as always. It's always such a pleasure to be catching up. As I was saying, it's nice that we can touch base like this and just stay connected.
Absolutely. For our listeners, we've had Irene on the podcast for many episodes. I will link them in the description below. So today we're going to be talking about lung health, which I'm so excited to talk about because we've never talked about it on our podcast before. And I think it's very important to be talking about it because there's so many things that affect our lung health that we might not be thinking of. I think when we talk about lungs, we're thinking, are you a chronic long-term smoker? But it's so much more than that. We're living in a time where we have increased wildfire smoke, smog, air pollutions, chemicals, fragrances. There's so many things that affect our air quality. So besides those ones, is there any other underlying, areas that we should be thinking about when we are exposing our lungs to potential toxins?
Yeah, as you mentioned, I'm really excited that we are talking about lung health because it is so underrated. Like it's something that we don't think about when it comes to our health with supporting, but it is, obviously it's essential in every breath, right? And that is where it's so important to have that care. And when you do have that care, that's longevity. That is improving our overall health capacity of every cell. So I know we'll be getting into a lot of those details with how that connection works with the whole body when it comes back to lung health. But yeah, those hidden impacts when it comes to lung health, it's not just going to be like if you think you might have a cough and that is something, that 100-day cough that might be long-standing and that's affecting my lung health. But there's so many silent inflammation that's really building that may not give those symptoms. And it's smoke exposure that does, and the smog, the pollutants, the different chemicals that we do interfere with that you do mention. And so this makes our lungs more sensitive. So over time, this can can cause some breakdown. And then we reduce our lung development and our lung capacity. And so that is where it can further affect that heart and lung connection, so more the cardiovascular impact. So something to be mindful of depending on your health history as well. And then you've got the immune disruptors that are also caused because of lung health. So excited to get into this conversation with you today for sure.
So lots of things that really affect our lung health and quality of our lungs as well. So when we're talking about, our environment, do people living in cities with higher smog levels have different lung support needs than, say, somebody who might be living in more of a rural environment?
You know what? I don't want to say that one is worse or better than the other. There's the pros and the cons of both. I was a farm kid, had health issues, was a city dweller, had my own, health stuff come up too, back to living in the forest. And you find what works for you, and you have to really allow your lifestyle to be optimized in your environment to the best of your ability. So, of course, cities have more pollutants, but then you look at more rural areas, and with the herbicides and pesticides on the farm areas, the water, depending on what is surrounding what the water looks like as well, just like, city water, pros, cons. So it's not so much about one versus the other. It's really just about supporting the environment that you live in. So if it means that you do have to get the air purifiers for your condo, or if it means that, you read the air quality alerts before you go on that long run for that morning. So just being more mindful, being educated in your environment, what is surrounding. Maybe you are in a rural environment and you've got beautiful farms and, it looks like peace and serenity, but what type of farms are they, right? And what are the chemicals that are being used, even though you can't, do much to prevent that. What you can do is optimize your lung capacity, your overall health, to help manage the day-to-day so that there isn't such an impact on your health.
Those are very good points to focus on, is it's not always about the environment. I totally overlooked the point about the pesticides and herbicides when you're in more of that country living. So thank you for bringing attention to that. And also thinking about country living, I think about more farmers' fields, wheat, ragweed, things like that, which brings me to my next question. So when we're thinking about lung support, we may be thinking about that allergy season, right? But is there actually year-round stressors that are on the lungs that isn't just about the seasonal allergy effects that maybe people should be aware of to support their lung health?
Yes, I think the allergy season, the asthma, those are the obvious markers of, okay, lung health might be compacted here. Let's start indoors. So indoors, anything scented, fragrance, air fresheners, laundry detergents, even, makeup, hair products that have those types of artificial ingredients, those also are being intaken, and our body has to filter that out. So that's going to also affect our lung health with our breath. And so from there, but then we look at the seasonal side of things. So, I live in the Okanagan, also known as the Smokanagan Valley, unfortunately. So smoke season, wildfire season, and it's affecting, all across Canada now. It's not just the West Coast. And so this is where it's something that I do suggest to preparations to allow our health to be at its strongest capacity. So I know we'll talk about that today. And then also ongoing, depending on your lifestyle, if you are a smoker, and this isn't just tobacco, but also cannabis, people who use vapes as well. So we have to consider the impacts on our lungs. And then we talked about toxic environments or surrounding areas, but even depending on your work, right? So this could be factory workers, chemical exposure, whatever that looks like. You have to provide for your well-being, your household, and you can't always change that environment, right? And then places with poor ventilation. So maybe you do live in an older house, and depending on the paint on the walls, the ventilation system, once again, your workplace, what you can't control there. So some different capacities. And then also I would look at further lung support would be needed for athletes. They require more oxygen for that, enhancing their athletic performance. Breath workers, meditation coaches, this is only going to help with improving their focus, their concentration, and providing that life to their body.
Wow. So pretty much everybody and anybody. The one thing that also came to mind when you were listing off a lot of people that are affecting it, I'm also wondering, like you're talking about breath work, athletes, outputting that oxygen, but what about people that actually don't even have full deep breaths? Like they're so chronically stressed that they're just like short, shallow breaths all the time. I imagine that would have an impact on the lungs as well.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly it. And in a lot of, we tend to go to yoga or, different types of meditation to improve our mental health, say, right? So, but improving our lung capacity, that, kind of starting from the inside out is also going to get us there. And taking those deep breaths and those reminders, like right now, all of us taking that moment, taking that big deep breath in and then exhaling, doing that 3 times and just having that you can feel that invigoration into the body. And just, connection to the mental health side is always something that is going to also help.
For sure. Amazing. I hope everyone listening right now is taking 3 deep breaths and really releasing and cleansing and just relaxing. So let's talk about lung congestion, but also like what that actually means. What is actually happening here?
Yeah, so what's happening inside our lungs is that mucus is essential to our air pathways to trap invaders. And then there's cilia, which are tiny hair-like structures, and those sweep out the debris. So sweep out any of those pathogens. And then our immune cells help to control the bacteria and engulf those particles. And so working all together, the trapping, the exiting of the pathogens is all working symbiotically together. And this is where the lungs are constantly trying to get into homeostasis, into that balance. So eliminate the pathogens, provide the oxygen, and then reduce that inflammation also throughout the airways. So there has to be a healthy balance for all to work at the same time together.
I'm sure it's a very delicate balance of all of those things working synergistically together. But when we're talking about that balance and the lungs being healthy, but then also supporting the immune system, how do those two support each other to improve your overall immunity?
Yeah, so oxygen is needed for our immune cells to perform. When we enhance the oxygen in our bodies, our immune cells are able to perform optimally as well, to help capture those invaders, to fight off any pathogens within the body. So that is why it's so important. And then also to provide an energy, ATP, life force to our cellular health, including immune cells. And so when we have poor lung function, we have reduced oxygen supply. And then that means a decreased immune efficiency. And this is where that mild impairment can really affect immune resilience. So that is where the importance is. And when you have that reduction in our lung capacity and then the reduction in our immune system to not be as efficient, well, over time, this can cause further breakdown. And then these infections, these pathogens that enter, they can accumulate and an infection can rise and go more into a disease state. And that barrier, that lung barrier for our health can be affected. And so this is where it triggers long-lasting issues. So it might just be a cough that's been there for a few weeks, and now it's been a few months, and now, the further immune cells are being disrupted into the body. And so that's where looking at a healthy lung function really is so important for overall health and that vital force of energy throughout the body to perform as it should.
So you mentioned like some symptoms there that you were talking about, lung congestion, the cough, things like that. And I think what's important to reiterate to our listeners is that it's beyond the symptoms. It's just that preventative support for our health and longevity as well. I want to highlight the new amazing formulation that Living Alchemy has launched to really support everybody in their long-term health of their lungs. So as I know, Living Alchemy is using different practices compared to other supplement brands, fermentation, more bioavailable formulations. So I would love for you to dive a little bit more deeper into the new lung health formula and how this compares to other conventional supplements that may be on the market that people are more familiar with.
So as we support lung health, we're supporting that microbial balance within the body as well. And the lungs have their own microbiome, just as our gut does. And at Living Alchemy, we're always talking about the gut microbiome. So to further see that connection with the lung microbiome and what that looks like, this is where it can be enhanced through different foods, herbs, mushrooms to help with creating that resilience. And here at Living Alchemy, we always talk about fermentation, and fermentation, it's really that living collection of those cosmos that enhance our foods. And this is where when we look at fermented whole foods, we look at foods that are more digestible. They're more potent in the most natural way without using any of those chemical processes, extractions, residues, that type of artificial enhancements. And so with Living Alchemy, we keep it as natural as possible with our formulas. And that brings us to that new supplement called Lung Health Plus. And so here with Lung Health Plus, it's the fermented herbs, mushrooms. So with the formula of the Lung Health Plus, we've got cordyceps mushrooms in there, which that is something that does provide that oxygen from the brain to the whole body. And so this is something that's going to help with our energy of our cell health. So really going to help promote those deeper breaths, that endurance. And so that is something that's so important when it comes to lung health. And then mullein is something that more of us are looking towards, which I'm so pleased to hear. Myself, I live, like I mentioned, in the Okanagan, in a forest. We do a lot of brush clearing before the wildfire season. And why I love mullein is because we've done the brush cleaning, and then the next year we see these beautiful mullein, strong plants come through after all the burns. And that is something that you can really see how this plant helps to regenerate and healthy environments. And it's doing that in the forest, it's doing that within our lung mucosa. And so mullein is something that works right away, is what I found personally, drinking it as a tea, taking it in a supplement form for that therapeutic use is so essential. And then utilizing it kind of beforehand, which we can talk about how to utilize it. But yes, in the formula, the mullein's in there, astragalus, so further immune support. So supporting the lung immune connection. And then lungwort, that's something that is essential in lung formulas that helps with the re-strengthening as well, the clearing of the mucus, and then a great nutritive base of nettles, ginger, parsley, peppermint as well in the Lung Health Plus supplement by Living Alchemy. So quite unique. The fermentation process, as always, allowing that to naturally enhance it and make it more absorbable. So it is effective. So you do notice the difference with it.
Very full, well-rounded supplement, kind of hitting each of those core herbs, but also supporting immunity, which love to see it. Now, question about this type of formulation. Is this something that listeners should only take when they're feeling symptoms of congestion or irritation, or they are, like, say, in a wildfire area? Or is this something that you can also take proactively for more long-term respiratory support as well?
Yeah, well, the answer would really be both, depending on your needs, your lifestyle, supporting your environment. So if it is, you're in a place that your lungs have been compacted for some time, you're noticing it with, not taking those deep breaths, maybe your exercise not being at the level that it was in the past, or your environment not being as healthy as you'd like it to be. So that's where I would look at taking it ongoing. If it is allergies, asthma, any, toxic exposure, to rebuild ongoing use. And then I would look at seasonal so if this, smoke is rising, air quality concerns are rising, if you can catch it before that season comes. So I know for myself here, August tends to be a harder month for us. However, it's kind of gone into July, started earlier. So I know I'll start my lung support in June to start building and strengthening so that I'm not as affected. And that's something that, we talk about athletes, but also just daily exercise, the air quality, if it's smog, if it's, some sort of toxic dump that's been happening in that area. And the air quality is not, if there's an alert with that, doing something like exercise outside will only wreak more havoc on our system than do any good. And I know, staying indoors during those seasons is so hard to be doing. So that's where that fine balance and being aware of that type of environment that's happening. So supporting our systems during those times is what's going to be essential. And that's where you would just use it for those seasons, if that is the condition. But if it goes back to maybe you are a smoker, then ongoing use, something like that. So you can use it either or. So if you are looking for something more catered to your needs, your lifestyle, you've got questions about how Living Alchemy supplements can be catered to that. We have in-house nutritionists on our team that are happy to jump on a phone call with you and see if there is a protocol that we can suggest that would help optimize your lifestyle. So Living Alchemy is a resource. We want to be a part of the community to be able to enhance overall health. So do reach out anytime.
Thank you for including that. And for our listeners, I will leave the Living Alchemy website also in the description, just so you can quickly access, because any information that can be provided to just support anything. I know we're talking about health, lung health this time, but there's so many resources on even just the Living Alchemy website itself. So definitely go and check it out. So love that this formula can be used for multiple different people. And I would just like to take a second to reiterate really who could benefit from it. Because again, it's not just about like a current state of an illness. It is so much more broader than that. So can you just share again, who is going to benefit from a formula like this?
So I would look towards Lung Health Plus for anyone looking to optimize their, say, athletic performance. So if it is maybe you're training for a marathon, maybe it is meditation coaches, breath workers, that type of direction, those that are using any sorts of, tobacco, cannabis, vaping to support our systems that way, exposure to any toxins that can be within our households, within our workplaces, in our external environments, rural, urban environments. So it can be anything from smoke to smog to allergy season, asthma. And then that is where, there's a lot of different types of lifestyles that we could further support. That's only going to help with immunity, heart health when it comes to lung development. And then lastly, I should always mention, and I always feel like colds and flus, we talk about that with immunity only, but connecting that back to lung health. So back to that long-standing cough, if you've had like bronchitis, sinusitis, pneumonia, and it's usually that cough that always lingers if you find that. So that's because the lungs can be greatly impacted from those colds and flus that come up. So as we, exit out of cold and flu season and then go into, say, an allergy, air quality alerts and whatnot, this is where supporting that transition and something like that, that is essentially why we created Lung Health Plus, to fill in, to support, to build that resilience in those in-between times.
Amazing. Thank you for reiterating who could benefit from this formula. And as you mentioned, you could reach out to anyone on the Living Alchemy team to get a further, more detailed, suggested lifestyle plan. But I also know you have another incredible resource that is available for everybody, and I would love for you to take some time to talk about what this resource is.
Yeah, so Living Alchemy, we have the Living Alchemy Book of Fermentation. So this is a book that myself and Whitney Douglas, we've authored, and is available. So if you want to keep exploring, educating, that's why we put this amazing book. It's beautiful. There's so much valuable resources into it, and that's why we put it out into the world, to provide that support to our systems. And that is, it touches everything about our food system to our social economic systems, and then bringing it back to our table and our plate and what we can control in our environments, and only enhancing that. And so the Living Alchemy Book of Fermentation, Ancient Inspirations for Modern Day Health is the title. It's available on the website, Amazon, etc. But it covers, the topics are the history of fermentation, the science. My favorite chapter is the health of fermentation, the art of fermentation. So getting started in your house, and in your kitchen, in your garden, that kind of thing. And then and also the future of fermentation, what it may look like in the future too, right? How this is going to affect our food systems And then also 25 recipes, beautifully curated by myself. And this is where simple ones to get started in from some favorites are kimchi, sauerkraut, really easy, your fermented pickles and carrots and zucchinis and all those yummy ones, including fermented mushrooms, which I love. But then we've got other ones like sourdough, kombucha recipes are in there. I've been really into my kind of mocktails, which is everything from water, coconut kefir, ginger bugs, which is how you make it like a nice ginger, sparkling ginger beer. Yeah, so lots of good ones. We've even got recipes in there on plant-based cheeses, plant-based butters. Oh my goodness, tempeh. Who knew that would actually be so easy to make, which I know sounds really intimidating. But what's really nice is these recipes, you can do like the really basic version, the intro version, or maybe you're a long-term fermenter and you're like, oh my goodness, I want to, learn more and advance my skills. And this book can also help get you there too, because there's added layers to the recipe of how to step it up a bit, get more creative in the kitchen, optional suggestions and add-ins and flavors and seasonings that are all truly natural, great for the gut, great for the body overall. Yeah, that was a joy to be able to create the book. So really happy to offer that to the community too.
Amazing. Talk about like literally the book of fermentation. You guys really thought of everything. I have seen the book. It's also available at Joanne's Place. I was skimming through it when I was there the other day. It's gorgeous. It's so informative and such a great resource, because I think fermentation, like as we've talked about on so many episodes together, like it doesn't matter what topic we're talking about. It's beneficial for everybody. Longevity, lung, we've talked about inflammation, digestion, IBS. There's so many things we've discussed, and fermentation can support so many things. And it doesn't always, like I know we talk about supplements on here, we talk about lifestyle, we talk about many different things, but they can just be everyday habits that you're making into your everyday recipes. So I love that you guys have created this resource for our listeners. It's amazing. Well, for everybody, not just our listeners, but for everybody. Amazing. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
We've covered so much. I know it's a lot of information, but maybe also just the start of a new journey. And for those looking for support, reach out. We always love hearing from the community how we can further support, get involved in any capacity there is. And yeah, thank you to Joanne's Place for having me and supporting Living Alchemy and all of our endeavors, and to all the listeners that are taking that step to learning more, because that's what it's about. I mean, we've all have our journeys that we've had to overcome whatever health obstacles are in our way, and we're learning more. And this is where this information and having these conversations is so important. So yeah, I encourage you to keep on learning, exploring, advocating, investigating all those different health trends and health information that's out there. Yeah, see how it resonates with you. So that's for the listeners out there.
Amazing. Well, this has been such an insightful conversation, and I do feel like so many people can benefit from just supporting their lungs, as we talked about. So many people need to really focus on the quality of their health. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here today. And for our listeners, again, as Irene mentioned, you can pop onto the Living Alchemy website. I will leave the link below, and contact any of their holistic nutritionists. But you can also pop into one of our locations at Joanne's Place in Peterborough, or Lindsay. You can talk to any of our team about this product or any other products by Living Alchemy and how they can best support your daily routine. Irene, again, thank you so much for joining us today. As always, it's such a pleasure to have a conversation with you and to share your wealth of knowledge. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of the Wellness on Purpose podcast. If this episode supported you, share it with someone who could use a little more wellness in their life. Also, please be sure to visit us in person at Joanne's Place Health Food Store in Peterborough and Lindsay, Ontario, and connect with our amazing team to learn more about the topics discussed in this podcast, as well as the products featured. You can also pop on and visit our website for more wellness inspiration and resources to support your wellness journey. Thanks again, and until next time, stay intentional, stay curious, and live wellness on purpose now.